So who are you?
I'm a woman of my word.
I was gonna ask if you're calling in from Gotham, but that doesn't look like Gotham.
No, it's a little sunnier than Gotham.
Well, Vera, congrats on The People's Joker. It is getting all kinds of love and deservedly so. Truly one of the most singular pieces of filmmaking I've seen in a long, long time. It is a hell of an accomplishment. So congrats to you.
Thank you so much.
What can you say about the origins of The People's Joker? Were you sick of DC getting it wrong? Sorry, we probably don't want to piss off DC this interview.
No, just my existence alone is enough. No, I mean, I see all those movies. Like, I'm an absolute comic book dork, and kind of have been my whole life. You know, free the Snyder cut, free the Ayer cut. I'm totally there with all those people, even though a lot of them hate my trailer for this movie.
I'm trans.
Well, I'm sorry, or don't like what we did. But yeah, the original idea for this, I don't know. I'd worked in TV for like 10 years. As an editor, I came up at Absolutely Productions with Tim and Eric, and really got to work on like all these really amazing shows. Like my first job there was on season 1 of Eric Andre's show, and then after that was season 1 of Nathan For You, and then I was on Comedy Bang Bang on IFC for 3 years, and The Birthday Boys, and various Tim and Eric stuff, and kind of had cut my teeth there, both as an editor and as like a producer and director. And it was great. Like, it was like my incubator for really like figuring out like technically like how to make stuff. Like, I knew I had wanted to make movies my entire life. Like, my earliest memories were wanting to be a director at 6 years old. Like, I don't think I knew what the word was, but I do. Like, Robert Zemeckis is a director and Back to the Future is a movie, and I want to make movies. So like, but yeah, like getting to that point where like it was finally time to make a movie, I think really came out of the experience of like working in the alternative comedy world for as long as I did. And I had done performing a lot, and since I was like 13, I was doing stuff at Second City and IO, and I kind of stopped when I came to LA just because the scene was so bad when I like moved out here. It just didn't really translate to the kind of stuff I was into. So I really just focused on video, and but comedy for me was this like space where I could really explore identity in a way that felt good and safe to me. Um Even on those shows I worked on, like I think I got to like understand myself. But it also, like, I think for years kind of kept me trapped in this like cycle of irony and self-deprecation and stuff, like especially like when I was doing stand up. Like, I think comedy for me was just like high concept self-harm more than anything. Like, it wasn't really expression. So I really just kind of wanted to process all that, like both how comedy informed my identity and helped me, but also maybe kept me trapped in some old ideas. And the original idea for the People's Joker wasn't even like a Joker movie. Like, it was like a body horror thing about a drag queen who was like physically addicted to irony.
I was fairly certain I was in love, and I was so afraid of that feeling going away.
Set in like this kind of reality where comedy is illegal but also weaponized, just because that's such a funny premise to me. And then the Joker of it all just kind of fell into place because once my like co-writer got involved, we Todd Phillips had been in the news a lot in March 2020, just talking about woke culture and how people weren't really making comedy anymore because they were afraid of offending people. Which, on one level, I understand what he's saying, because like we do live in like very reactive times, and like now just having the experience of releasing this movie, you say something and then people just project whatever they want onto it. So, but it's such a dumb thing to say, in my opinion, just because like I don't know, like I'm friends with a lot of comedians, like, and a lot of them are trans people or queer people, and like most of the trans people I know are the rudest people on the planet and like have really dark senses of humor. So the premise that like, you know, quote unquote wokeness or whatever is standing in the way of like comedic success like is so laughable to me. So that's really where the inspiration came in to go like, okay, let's actually make this like a parody of like Batman and really like take the things that I loved about Todd Phillips' Joker too. Like it's a movie about class struggle and it's about, you know, somebody who's struggling with mental illness and society fails him and his family system fails him. Like that all resonated with me as a trans woman just making my way through America. Um, so yeah, I think it was kind of the smoothie of all those ideas sort of circling into one and then just going like, okay, like let's make like a trans Joker parody with
Well, what was
these
it?
ideas.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. No, that's I love all these insights. What was it specifically about sort of I think you might have been about to answer this question. Sorry to cut you off, but what was it specifically about the Joker's origin story where you guys saw this opportunity to tell this perfect like allegory or metaphor or whatever you want to call it for like a transgender coming of age tale?
There, you know, it's so funny because I don't know that there's like a simple answer for that because there's just so many things that like I think specifically, you know, like there's like surface level things like, you know, when the idea comes, it's like, okay, well, obviously she needs to fall into a vat of estrogen at some point because Joker falls into a vat of acid. Um, but also, you know, like I think the things that like I saw in Joker 2019 of just like, you know, I've never really seen it's funny to me like when people like describe that movie as like just ripping off King of Comedy because to me it just feels like a really beautiful expansion of like that movie and like the ideas that it's circling of like just being somebody who doesn't really have any talent or understanding of themselves and is like living in this world that like actively hates them and harms them um just being there and be like no I like want to make people laugh and I'm going to do it at all costs like I don't know, like all of that just like really resonates with me as somebody who's yeah, been trying to make stuff my whole life and to varying degrees of success. Like I've been very lucky, um, especially with this film. Like I can't believe all the exposure it's gotten. Like I was not anticipating this level of exposure because it really did just start as like a DIY community art project that I was filling time during COVID making like it was started in pre-vax COVID and it was just really kind of born in this space of just like wanting to make like a big, weird, beautiful piece of art with my friends.
Yeah. And it sort of it continues the evolution of this character, which I think Joker might be like maybe the most electric or dynamic character in pop culture, right? Like you've had two actors win Oscars for it, Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix. So we're not even counting like the two other Oscar winners who have played him, Jack Nicholson and Jared Leto.
Yeah.
And now here's the wonderful things you do with this character. I mean, did first of all, did any of those previous? It sounds like the Joaquin, the most recent film was a big influence. But were there other, performances that you sort of drew from, like previous cinematic performances?
I think the like Joaquin performance like was definitely like the influence like narratively and just kind of because like I always wanted it to be structured like that movie because it is 100% a parody of Todd Phillips' Joker. Like so it kind of needed to follow that format. But like yeah, I mean I just love every iteration of this character. Like, I think my favorite version is Caesar Romero. Like, that's probably the one that like I was like trying to channel the most. Like, he's just got so much. He's got like that swashbuckling pirate Joker attitude to him, but like he's so. There's something just so chaotic about a Joker who refuses to shave his mustache. Like, he'll just paint over his mustache. Like, that's. I think that's the kind of if I could point to one Joker, that was the energy I was sort of trying to pull towards. And like we have a parody of Jared Leto's Joker and the People's Joker. Um and that was mostly because like I love Jared Leto's Joker. Like I think it's a very underrated Joker. Like the kind of like colorful scumbaggy gangster vibe like is the type of Joker like I wanted to see in movies you know, my entire life like being a Batman fan. So I loved, you know, his portrayal of that. We really needed to uh incorporate it in this somehow, and it was very important for me too to have a trans guy play him just because Jared Leto's played trans women before, so it only feels fair, you know.
Right.
Now we're even, I guess.
I love that. How did you land on the tone for the film? Because you know, it's getting a lot of love for being so audacious. I think it was Peter DeBruge from Variety who said it'll offend you, it'll amuse you, and it'll like make you feel something in your heart in equal measure.
Told that someday a clown would rise. Sounds pretentious.
You know, I don't know that you can ever really aim for that, really. Like it's the movie, like when we were writing it, we were really writing it kind of like more like a one woman show or something, you know? Like it was always kind of this, it always kind of had this like Hedwig and the Angry Inch, like, you know, somebody just looking at you and like telling you, like Ferris Bueller too, kind of, I guess. So like I think when you're like watching something where like that it is just so clearly from the perspective of this character, you get a lot of wiggle room to sort of, you know, give people the whole dinner. And I think just the comic book genre in general, like it's I think the best comic book movies, they aren't just like action or like adventure. Like there's comedy and there's drama, and like it actually makes you think about these things. I mean, Batman Forever is definitely that for me, especially like the work print cut of like Joel Schumacher's original vision for Batman Forever. Like he was so ahead of the curve. And yeah, I think the mixed media style also really allows us a lot of wiggle room to jumble through a lot of different tones. Like in a movie where like one scene I'm portrayed by like a Barbie doll that we dressed up like the Joker, and then the next I'm like myself in live action form, and then like in a slow kind of anime vibe in the next scene. Like it allows you to, you know, tell a story that is both like a moving dramatic story just about like mothers and daughters and finding your chosen family, while also having characters like Suicide Cop and, you know, doing jokes about Ben Folds Brick, you know.
I love how seamlessly it does blend the live action and animation and all those elements. And I also love how it's dedicated to both your mom and Joel Schumacher. I much appreciated that.
Yeah.
Can we talk about what happened at TIFF for a moment? Because that had to be like an emotional roller coaster. It premiered there, and then all of the rest of the screenings were pulled. I think there was a Slate headline that said like a review that said this movie rocks, but like too bad you're never going to see it again. What happened there, and were you worried yourself that it would never see the light of day after those TIFF cancellations?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's so weird because like the experience of TIFF was like it was a lot less dramatic than a lot of people think. Like we really we had our, you know, we had a beautiful premiere at that theater. Like I couldn't believe it, especially like after the because there was a 24-hour period there in the lead up to that premiere where like it was looking like we weren't even going to screen at TIFF. But thankfully TIFF really advocated for us. Like it I always try to make sure I say that just because like it still blows my mind. Like I'm not used to any like big organization like advocating for me that way, and they really they stood behind the artist in this case, and like thank God for it because that premiere was beautiful. But that cut we screened was also a very early cut of the movie that you know, had a lot of, you know, just even from the VFX standpoint, like I had to finish a lot of stuff. Like we needed to recast somebody who didn't want to be in the movie anymore. We also like had to work on the score a little, like, and you know, I woke up that next morning after that premiere to just like we were going viral on Twitter. My face was on the cover of every single trade, and just rights issue, rights issue, rights issue slammed over everything. So like, you know, it was my decision to pull the screenings just because I needed to hit pause on the Joker ride just for a second because I mean, I was finishing the movie 5 minutes before I got in the car to go premiere it at TIFF, and it was so I wasn't prepared to wake up that next morning with everybody in town talking about it, and particularly the way they were talking about it. I mean, the specific review you mentioned of like just immediately making something and then immediately having people call it a banned movie or call you a banned filmmaker or like uh it was disheartening, I guess, and like it was scary, but it was just a sign that was like, okay, we just need to hit pause for a second and just figure out what we're doing. I'm gonna finish the movie and we're gonna just, sort of lay low and keep taking this out because there's clearly like people are hungry for it, but finding the best avenues for that. And we were thankfully able to find that on the little bit of we did a whole festival run last year where we were able to screen it, and that's thankfully like what led to us finally landing distribution.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you referenced this at the top of the interview. DC fans haven't been too kind to the film. It sounds like thus far. I mean, they're known. They can be a tough bunch to legit DC movies.
Oh yeah, no.
So, I mean, how have you been dealing with that? Has that been tough? Are you able to sort of tune that stuff out?
Yeah, I mean, in general, for starters, like I think a lot of the people, generally speaking, I think what the people who talk negatively about this movie are in some sort of light where they really are just misrepresenting what we did with it too. Like there are people who haven't seen the movie. Um, and on one level, I understand how you could look at the trailer for the People's Joker, which I think is beautiful. I think I'm so proud of that trailer. It was edited by Michael Zayas, and it's I think it captures the tone of the movie, but it's also very jarring because no movie looks like this. Like it's truly, like it or not, it is a visual like feast that has never been served up before, especially with these characters. So I understand why the most like critical and emotionally intense like fandom of all time isn't like just completely embracing this movie with open arms instantly. um and yeah, like I'm definitely on Twitter a little bit less than I was a few weeks ago, but that's I think my therapist is happy about that, and and so is my partner, and um but I would encourage anybody who loves Batman and is like wanting to see somebody who also really loves Batman and loves these characters and wants it, like The People's Joker is less a Batman movie, it's less a Joker movie than it just is a movie about these characters. And it is about my relationship to these characters and my love for them. So like it's definitely not for everybody, but I think even like the most like hardcore DC fan, like if you like want to see something made by somebody who cares about Batman and the Joker to what I think is a psychotic degree, to the point where like I spent 4 years making this, then go see the movie, like give it a chance. And yeah, and it's also funny because it's like I feel like sometimes creators in these kind of instances, especially because like I'm trans, like it'd be very easy for me to say like, like alt-right shitlords or whatever. And like I'm sure there is some of that at play there, and some of it is like transphobic. But even to that end, I would encourage anybody who doesn't like trans people to see this movie, because I don't think you've ever seen something made by a trans person that is this palatable too, because it's just a dumb genre comic book movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And if you're like one of those like angry at woke culture conservative types, like this is a movie set in a reality where comedy is illegal and is government sanctioned. So like, maybe our worldviews aren't that different. And you can just like learn about like what it's like to actually come of age when you're having this sort of gender experience.
What's next for you? Are you looking to expand the PJCU, the People's Joker cinematic universe?
Thank you for coining that. That hasn't been coined yet. I don't think so at the moment, like I might want to revisit this version of these characters someday. Like I really do feel like by the end of the movie, like, we've made them these versions, like Joker the Harlequin by the end of the movie is not Todd Phillips Joker or even like a parody of Todd Phillips Joker. I think there are places that I could take these characters and probably will someday, but I have a lot of other stories I want to tell first. I'm working on a horror movie right now. It's a trans body horror movie that also is kind of a buddy comedy and is about goddess worshiping cults. And I also have a heist movie that I'm trying to make that I'm really excited about, but I can't really talk too much about. And yeah, we'll see we'll see what happens. I feel like indie cinema is alive. It's crazy because like everybody's so bummed out and bleak all the time. Like I'm sure you can tell when you're interviewing people. Like, but like to me, I don't know. I've just been taking this movie out for like a year and a half and meeting so many filmmakers and seeing so many indie films. And like I think now more than ever, like cinema is so exciting and I'm so excited that I get to be a part of it in some way.
Amen. Amen. Yes. Well, yeah, no, I'm also an indie filmmaker, so I can attest to the bleakness that is pervading the industry right now.
Yeah, it's so dark, right? Like it's like depressing.
It really is. It really is. You just have to tell people like, come on, let's just have faith here. Let's go.
Yeah.
Vera, this was light. I really appreciate your time today. And again, like huge congratulations on the film. It deserves all the love that's coming your way. I do hope people that are hating on it will give it a chance because it's a special experience. So thank you again, and great to talk to you.
Thank you, Kevin. It's great to talk to you. I enjoyed this a lot.
Take care.